Welcome to the Farm Life Podcast brought to you by the Kings County Farm Bureau. I'm Dusty Ferentz, the Executive Director at the Farm Bureau, and our guest today is newly elected Supervisor Robert Thayer. Robert, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Gladly. Why don't you tell our listeners what district you're in and a little bit about yourself?
Well, I represent District 5, which is essentially, best way to describe it is kind of the northeast portion of the county. Inherited the seat from a 4-term board member, Richard Fagundes, and a little bit about my background is I came to Kings County in 1989, hired by then Sheriff Tom Clark, and came to work at the sheriff's office. And 35 years later, this past November, I hung up that hat, retired after 35 years. About the last 12 or 13, I think, as Sheriff Robinson's undersheriff, and come to the table with that expertise in local government and how it should operate and how it needs to operate, and some core beliefs that I believe that I share with a broad spectrum of our community members, and that's essentially my background. I did grow up in Visalia, went to schools there locally, but as fate would have it, my family originally, my great-grandfather originally marched out to California from Missouri and settled on the Tulare Lake bottom and farmed down there for years. They ultimately ended up moving on to a dairy just outside the city of Corcoran, still in Kings County. Lost that during the Great Depression, and that's when my family moved over to Tulare County, and then me, born and raised there, but I'm bringing those roots back for the Thayer family.
Yeah, deep roots in Kings County and the South Valley. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your decision to run for supervisor.
Well, I've always been in my position as the undersheriff. My whole role was to support the office of sheriff, and so I guess you can kind of consider that job sometimes as being the fly on the wall in the room, and I'm the guy that stands in the back of the room listening to a lot of things that are going on. And if you spoke with Sheriff Robinson, he could probably share with you the number of times I texted him asking what local officials are doing and why are they doing that, as elected officials. And it was quite bothersome on many spectrums of things. And I just had an abiding conviction. I had thought about running for this District 5 seat years and years ago. It's the only seat I would want to run for, primarily because when I worked patrol, the northeast part of the county, B2, was where I spent most of my years patrolling. And I just thought that, it's time for other people to step up into these positions. And as vulnerable as that is to put your name out there and run, I did, obviously successfully doing so, but it's because I think I offer our community a new vision, and somebody who's been down in the arena. I say that I've been a doer down in the arena, and nobody's going to BS me on processes or red tape or whatever, because I've lived it for 35 years. And to be able to take that experience as an advocate and move forward and just tell people the truth, tell the constituency the truth, and try to push that truth forward as it pertains to running the county, governing the county, and then pushing items necessary to Kings County out onto our legislative platforms, through a variety of lobbyists and whatnot.
Yeah. Before I knew you were running for supervisor, I'd see you at board meetings, and you reached out a few times and always had in-depth questions. I could tell you were one of the few people in the room that would read a full Board of Supervisors packet and understand what was going on, and always had good questions about, why things were the way they were.
Right. I mean, because so many things just get pushed downstream. Last Tuesday was my first meeting, and really for the most part it was a really simple agenda. There was, the lion's share of items were on the consent calendar, and that's just supposed to be routine business. But right away, the first two things I think I read on that consent calendar, I told my wife, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be that guy, because I'm going to pull these two items. And there was no offense really on either one of them. One of them was about a promotion to an assistant director position in behavioral health, and I don't have a problem with that. If the department head wants to promote this person. But why is it on the agenda for me to approve this
Right.
if I didn't get a say in it to begin with? The sheriff put me in that. He appointed me to the undersheriff. I didn't have to get board approval for it. So that was one of those kind of first things, like why am I as a board member having to vote on this? And I ended up not. It was just information. But then the second piece was a finance MOU, where we're sending Kings County dollars to Fresno County, to a Fresno County nonprofit. And quite frankly, I saw it and it just kind of ticked me off that this county, that whatever the certificate that we needed, that for the purposes of why we sole source this to this organization out of Fresno, no offense against that organization, but I look at it and go, why don't we have that here? If this fluff money, as I kind of call it, stuff that's going to go into these these community-based organizations locally, why aren't we going to put that into Kings County workers' pockets? And instead, 300,000 of it goes to Fresno County. So it's things like that I have my eye on, that kind of is fingernails down the chalkboard, if you will. I don't know that I have a cure for it, but as I get the opportunity to meet with department heads throughout the county, those are my expectations, that we need to keep these dollars local, and if we need to help other nonprofits get these these certified levels, well then let's do that and keep the money here. So I think you can kind of see what my temperament is, and it's those types of things of why I ran. These things are necessary in the community. I don't say that they're not necessary, but if we're going to enrich somebody, then let's enrich our own people that are paying property taxes in this county and shopping in our grocery stores and buying our own fruits and vegetables.
That sounds like a great plan to me. Keep your local dollars local, right? And benefit and promote your own community rather than sending those dollars and effort somewhere else.
Amen.
So Robert, as you started running for supervisor, started seeing you at water meetings a lot. We can't have. I think it's illegal for us to have a farm life podcast and not talk about water and specifically Sigma. And as a supervisor, you're gonna have a role in the Mid Kings River GSA, probably more than you ever thought or wanted, right?
Yes, that's true.
So let's talk broadly about Sigma before we get to the GSA specifically. What are your thoughts on Sigma, the efforts in the community to become compliant with the law, and what do you think the impacts of Sigma are on our community?
Well, the potential impacts scare me. Sigma in of itself, when I was running for office, I thought it was a typo originally when I saw this legislation was signed in 2014, and I'm looking at our growers across crowded rooms, and these men and women that are our local ag producers, they're not dummies, and they've been around a long time. And to me, watching them be blindsided by this, that's my opinion, that it looked like they were all taken off guard, and maybe they weren't. Maybe there's other reasons, but things like that just affirmed my reason of why I ran for public office. I think the state's efforts to regulate is a very frustrating process, and that's what Sigma is. It's somebody sticking their nose into something that they really have no business being in. With that said, the concerns I have is our ag industry is if it's not the number one, it's top two, top three of what our economy is built on in Kings County. And when you stifle and regulate growers and landowners with water or pumping their own water, I just see that as a spiral, and I see it as a very negative impact in our communities. You look out on the west side, Avenel was a oil boom town. And at whatever point in time when regulations came into place and they started turning those valves of oil off out there on that west side, you see how those communities dried up and how they struggle to maintain themselves today. And that's really what my concern is here, in the central, in the heart of the San Joaquin Valley. This should not be occurring.
Yeah, we agree. I'd like to go back to your thoughts on our local economy. Agriculture, Kings County Farm Bureau and the Economic Development Corporation in 2020 put together an economic impact report on specific to agriculture. And when you dive into those numbers and you consider that all of our manufacturing in the county is ag specific, the majority of our trucking in Kings County is ag specific, and you start to look at how the Economic Development Corporation and EDD at the state level break down the different sectors. It's like 3 or 4 of them that make up agriculture in Kings County. So you factor that in, and agriculture is directly responsible for 25% of the jobs in the county. And until COVID was the single largest employer in the county, county government actually surpassed agriculture as they hired additional healthcare workers during COVID. But there's not another industry that makes that up, right? When you're talking about 25% of the workload or the workforce is directly on farm or directly benefiting a farm, and we don't have a natural gas or an oil and gas industry to speak of. We don't have hospitality to speak of. We don't have any other manufacturing to speak of. When you start to look at the impacts to agriculture, it's not hard to realize the impacts to negative impacts in particular to the community at large.
Oh, 100%. And then, top it off. And of course, as I'm entering office, I read, that one of the Leprino plants, I believe in Lemoore, is shutting its doors.
Right.
What's that going to do? And then you hear of Del Monte down here, south of Hanford, and you kind of just, put your hands up and like, and I don't know these answers. I haven't met with anybody from our economic workforce here locally in the county yet, but that's one of my questions. Like, hey, have we asked, like, why is there, what are we going to do when we lose these jobs? And I can't say so much for Leprino other than, the dairy industry. I mean, I think both plants make cheese. I can't be 100% certain out there, but both of them, in my opinion, are ag-related jobs. You're going to flood the market at a time when potentially, if the state has its way, while they're choking out the local ag industry, it's just a recipe for disaster. And so, I'm trying to educate myself on a lot of this and balance, because I know there's more than one side of the story. But nevertheless, at least be at the table, helping steer something forward, whatever that something looks like, is better than doing nothing.
Right.
In my opinion.
Yeah. So Board of Soups is the Mid-Kings River GSA. The GSA is the Board of Soups. I don't imagine you've been appointed officially to that board yet, and probably haven't met officially with that GSA yet. But do you have any thoughts in general about the progress or the Board of Soups getting involved with that GSA?
Well, I mean, I understand and I don't understand. That I know that a number of years ago the board punted this over to the it's Kings Water District. Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah, the Kings County Water District was kind of the lead agency for a long time and for most of Sigma's implementation until summer of 24.
So that had already taken place, and it was, this was running out of their shop over there. And in the meantime, as I'm trying to educate myself on water, I'm pulling up these reports that they've sent to Sacramento that are rejected. And I want to say, like, the first one I read, it was either 600 pages or 900 pages.
Yeah.
Whatever that was. It was immediately like my BS detector went off, and it was like this is like reading a phone book.
Yeah.
And you realize the devil you're fighting in Sacramento, and I don't know what that board looks like up there who's making these decisions that these things aren't passing. That whatever our processes are that we've submitted isn't passing. But nevertheless, this is going to be some challenging times, and I'm trying my best as a person to educate myself on this. I know it is extremely complex, and there's a lot of irons in the fire on this from people who own stock behind Pine Flat, those who don't, whether they get charged to pump them. Can you even regulate that? Can you lawfully do that? Can the state lawfully come onto your property and say, hey, we're going to put a meter on your well, or on your, that we're going to pump? And to me, I've been telling people, it's like, if I put $50 in my savings account, you're going to charge me $10 for me to pull my $50 back out of the savings account. Like, it's mine. I already put it there and I own it. So why are you going to charge me for this? And so I know it's complex, and I hope that before we went on air, I was hoping that you had a magic wand you can pass me and I'll wave it, fix all of this for everybody. But definitely complex issues coming before us.
That's the understatement of the year, and it's early. We can try and beat that, but water and Sigma specifically are wildly complex, and a lot of hurry up and wait in the Sigma world. You talked about the law passing 10 years ago now, and all the work that's gone up to it. There's these little bursts of energy where something's got to happen. It's got to happen right now, and then these long drawn out periods of work going on behind the scenes, but nothing happening publicly. And unfortunately, that's been one of the downfalls of getting the law implemented, at least from our perspective, and something that we're encouraging the new leadership at the Mid-Kings River GSA to try and work on. Constant communication, make sure the stakeholders understand what's happening, what's being considered, what's about to come, so that you get that stakeholder buy-in. And like you said earlier, they're not caught off guard by changing regulations that they're not used to and we haven't ever seen before.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know if it's a pipe dream that you just hope this all just goes away. Recently, and I don't know how much bearing it's going to have on it, but these fires down in Southern California, there's just a lot of uproar that I hear, and I'm viewing from little news segments of people who typically wouldn't have an interest in dams and water storage, all of a sudden talking about this. And away from mainstream media, your ABCs and CBS and that type of stuff, away from that are these things right here, right? Podcasts.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are getting their news from a trusted source and not these
legacy media.
The propaganda that we've been seeing. So my kind of hope is that this pendulum, that there's a pendulum in California that may very well swing the other direction. And that you can get some, assembly members and senators and maybe even potentially a governor that is significantly more moderate than how far left we are. I mean, this is we're really far, one party system in California, very, very liberal. And I think part of that is that very, very liberal piece isn't really paying attention to what this means when we don't have water sources. They think that they buy their milk from the grocery store.
Yeah.
That's where they think it grows. And it's like, no, it grows, from cows in the Central Valley and in California on dairies. And there's farmers that raise feed to feed these, the complexity of it. And my hope is that pendulum starts to swing kind of naturally, and that some of this Sigma stuff can be undone and unregulated the way at least it's being proposed to. And then at the end of the day, I mean, people are in probation in this county for crimes that, what does that mean? Like,
yeah,
I still don't understand what's the ram. What are you going to do? Okay, we're on probation. So then what's the next thing? You're going to step into this county and take over? Like, good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck. You're going to have an OK Corral scene somewhere going on.
Hopefully it doesn't get to that.
No,
Farm Bureau's lawsuit has effectively undone the probationary designation for the time being, and if we can keep it up, we'll keep that undone, and give locals a chance to steer this ship again, hopefully.
Yeah.
But
keep your fingers crossed.
Keep your fingers crossed.
Yeah.
That's right. We need all the help we can get.
Yeah.
So aside from water, what are some of your other things that you'd like to focus on as a new supervisor?
The this homelessness that's spread across our state and this county, and primarily really out of the city of Hanford. That there's policy coming for that through the board, right, where the county is going to establish its own anti-camping policy, and my hope is that through these early processes and in cooperation with the state, we can start turning some of this stuff around and cleaning up the streets. This all started back in 2011 when they flushed the prisons into our local county jails. Mm-hmm. We went from a population of, in our jail here locally, like, I don't know, we'd run like 240 inmates, is like an average daily population, to now like well over 600. And most of those are sophisticated, what I would call sophisticated criminals that would used to go to prison, and now they're right here in our county jails. And then those lower level offenders, drug addicts and those type of things, are flushed out onto the streets and are living in tents. And so I hope to be at that steering wheel as well, guiding that forward. We talked earlier about the economic, workforce. I want to, pour some expectations into that too, and to help bring business back into Kings County. We have a significant land, stamp south of Hanford of industrial. I know Lemoore does, and and to bring good paying jobs into this area that we can just start help boosting and bolstering our economy. We should be better at it. I mean, we live between the 99 and Interstate 5, and we've got rail lines running right through the middle of our county. And why we're not better off, to me, again, I sit here and I don't know why.
Right.
Those who've come before me, to me, in my opinion, I don't want to say they didn't do a good job, but I don't know. Maybe they didn't do a good job. I don't know. In a couple of years, I might come back to you, Dustin, and go, "Oh, we're all screwed up. I was all wrong. Everything I thought, we could correct, we can't." But I really just think it takes people who have a heart to work, and it's hard. It's complicated. This stuff isn't easy, and I think people who encounter things like that oftentimes just walk away. It's just easier just to walk away. Well, growing up in the sheriff's office, we never walked away from complicated issues, and we were very successful in what we've brought to this county. The expansions of our jails. I mean, shoot, we've got an Air Force now almost. We've got an airplane and a helicopter, and that the stuff isn't. We didn't raise anybody's taxes to do this, and we went out and sought this funding for these things appropriately and properly, and brought these resources back into here, and we still have the cheapest sales tax rate in the state. 7.25%, and if a couple cops can do this, the sheriff and a couple of his upper echelon cops can do this, then why can't we do this as it pertains to behavioral health and the health department, and veterans offices, and the economic workforce? Why can't we do it there?
Right.
And I think we can. I think it's just about breathing the right wisdom into the right ear at the right time, and riding this thing like a wave going forward.
100%. It's about drive and dedication and wanting to solve a problem.
100%. 100%.
Yeah. So, well, I like to ask people, what's one thing that our listeners should know about you that you haven't covered today, or that people don't know from your campaign?
If I had to do it over again, I never really stepped out on and spoke much about my faith journey. And if I had a do-over, I probably would have spoke a little bit more about that. I know that my counterpart that I ultimately ran against in the end, is highly respected in this community because of his faith journey, and equally so. I shared that same one. I was a little younger, when he came to Christ. I was born and raised in church, and I don't know. I think I went to church 3 or 4 times a week. We went once Wednesday night, went to youth group, and then twice on Sunday morning and night service, and just as deeply rooted in my faith journey. At some point in time in my life, I learned to play the guitar and started playing the guitar in our worship band or church. Kind of gave that up. for a period of time. I still got the itch to do it, so maybe I'll end up back up on stage with guitar one of these days. But all three of my kids went down to Azusa Pacific University for college, Christian college, and so I think if I had to push that up a second time, I would. I just when it comes to my faith, because I just know that sometimes it just needs to be there, but not be the very, very forefront, because I really wanted to express my expertise as it comes to government and navigating those complexities. But that's one thing probably a lot of people don't know about me. So, is that faith journey?
Yeah, thanks for sharing that with us. This has been a great interview. We try and keep these things short, sweet, and to the point. So unless there's something else that you want to share with our listeners, we can wrap this up.
No, hopefully this goes over good, and you have me back another time. I love talking about these things, and hopefully, to keep the constituencies, across all 5 districts in this county up to date and on what's going on. I hope to do that as well, as to be a good communicator. Just again, tell the truth and go, this is just what it is, and good or bad, I'm going to tell the truth.
Yeah, that's a huge motivator for us here at Farm Bureau, is to just tell people what's going on, keep people informed, let them make the most informed decision they can. And we'd love to have you back some point, get your feet wet a little bit there at the supervisors, figure out what you don't know, and tell us some more later this year. That'd be great.
Yeah, happy to come back.
Yeah, we appreciate that. For our listeners out there, our Sigma Defense Fund is something you've heard us talk about a lot. We're still battling the State Water Resources Control Board, and they're being aggressive. They're throwing everything they've got at us. We need to raise $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 this year just to keep up with our legal efforts to keep the state board in Sacramento where they belong and off of your farm. So to learn more, check out our website, kcfb.org. Listen to a future episode of this podcast, and please consider making a contribution to our fund.